Good day, everyone, and how are you? Okay, what's going on?
What's going on?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's cut to the chase. What do we got going on here today? We have this beautiful Camaro. Now, we filmed Camaros in the past, but the reason why this one is special is because this one is the first to get the new pack kit. New pack kit? What do you mean? They do something different? We're gonna be doing epicenter, because epicenters are cool. We're also going to be putting some Power Series 6.5 components in the door, Power Series 6x9s in the back, these guys right here, and these guys right here. And then what's going to drive this home is going to be this Pioneer W4500 NEX. Now, we've just spent the better part of 35-40 minutes trying to game plan this car and figure out where the heck are we going to put stuff, because you know, it's not like there's a ton of room in the back of this Camaro, and it's not like the amplifiers are that big. We are going with the micro T amplifiers, so I mean they're small, they're compact, and they will hide. So I think we've come up with a game plan. So let's roll the intro, and I'll catch you on the other side. Now, if you caught the video we did on my Camaro when we put the Alpine DSP in, you know that the Boston acoustic amplifier is located here on the driver's side rear, which is going to be perfect for our two micro T amplifiers. Now, micro T amplifiers are these guys right here. T just means power. We have a 404 and we have a 501. 501, of course, is going to be powering the subwoofer, and the 4 channel is obviously going to be powering our mids and highs. As you can see, they're very compact, but they just pack a ton of power. And we've been kind of fitting how we're going to do this, and we think we can stack them right here like this. We just are going to need a little bit of spacer, about 1 inch to come off, but there's plenty of room behind this panel for those things to go in. And then the epicenter is going to go hiding on the other side, so everything will be tucked out of the way and you won't even know it's there. Now, since it is getting a subwoofer, I haven't mentioned which one we're going with, but he's going to go with this guy, the Scar Audio VVX12 V3D2. That should give him enough bass, don't you think, Fernando?
Definitely.
Yeah. First thing I want to do is go ahead and start constructing the amplifier rack and figuring out how I'm going to get all that in there, figure out my wire paths and stuff like that. We also have to either decide whether we're going to do 4-gauge to 8-gauge distribution block, or if it's just going to be easier to run 2 8-gauge wires from those amplifiers. And the reason why I say that is in the trunk here, you see this is the main power wire coming into the car, and right here, this is where the spare tire sits. And as you can see, the spare tire is actually cutting into this. Now, this is a shield that goes over it, so this is made to get some pressure on it. Our wire needs to be tucked next to this in order to function properly. As you can see here in the back, this is really kind of poor routing on their part. Granted, they put, you know, insulation over it, and it's more or less not a problem, but the tire is sitting right on this, so that's kind of dumb. So we don't want to be anywhere near this. When we're routing our wire, 2 8-gauge might be easier to get into this channel and down into here. Now, that means we're going to have to put our distribution blocks down here. We'll figure it out. Sometimes overcoming the factory stupidity is just what we do. Now, Fernando's plan of attack is to go ahead and get started on this driver's door. The one cool thing about the Camaros is it's very, very, very difficult to run wires through the doors, as we're finding out on my car. So we're gonna have to mount the crossovers in the door panel, which I'm not a big fan of, but like if you, there again, saw when we put the speakers in Fernando's car, we have a plan for that as well, which he'll show you. But one of the key factors in that is this guy. It's a 6-channel waterproof connector, and what we do is when we mount the crossovers in, they're attached to the physical door panel itself. That way you can unplug it and plug it. Hopefully we'll be able to use those in these. We'll find out as the story moves along into the future. You got your GoPro all set? I tell you what, I'm gonna cut to him right now taking this door panel off. You guys enjoy that, and I'll see you guys in a little bit when I start working on the amp rack.
First thing we're gonna do is locate where the screws are. It has a cover right here where you grab the door handle. That's a Torx T30. In the handle where you open the door, it's another screw. You grab pigtail. An angle pigtail, that will be cool, so you can like pull it. Just be careful, don't scratch it. And behind that, that's a 7mm. Make sure you have more in here. So we have 7mm on there. This one came out. It has 3 clips, so you just grab your panel tool. Be careful, just unclip it. And that in the corner, it's another 7mm. Now you grab your pry tool, plastic. Right, so the factory speaker is out. For this car, we're gonna use the Metra 823010. So we're gonna go to the bench, put some foam in the back. We don't have to put foam in the front because Rockford actually put foam in the back of the speaker. But also we're gonna do fast rings in this one. This one, because we're gonna put the crossover inside the door panel right here, we're gonna extend this wire, so we're gonna solder it right now, run the wire and run it to the center of the door. So in this one we're gonna put the silicone heat shrink because the connection is gonna be in the inside and we don't want it to corrode.
Since we've worried so much about where this thing is mounted and how it's in there, let's go ahead and talk about it for a minute and some of the features that this particular crossover has. And they're located here on the end. First thing you're going to notice is it says input and output. You see 4 inputs and you see 4 outputs. That means this crossover is bi-ampable. And by that I mean you could run a 4-channel amp just to this set of speakers. You could run your mid in here and your tweeter in here. Or for example, channels 1 and 2 can run your tweeter and channel 3 and 4 could run your mid-range. That's obviously going to be for a pair. Then you could use this passive crossover in order to run those without having any fear of what the active crossover would be in the amplifier. Not all amplifiers have a bandpass for the mid-range, and this would allow you to utilize this crossover as the top bandpass frequency for that mid-range. And what I mean by bandpass frequency is that you have a bottom, and that's the lowest sound that tweeter is going to play. Then you have a top, which is going to be the highest frequency your mid-range can play, and then you have a bottom for the mid-range. This will provide you with that top frequency for the mid-range. Now if your amplifier has a bandpass channel, then you might want to think about not using this. Now for us, just because we're using 2 channels of the 4-channel amplifier to power our front speakers, we will just be connecting to the tweeter input here. That is going to be what you're going to want to hook up to. If you go up to the mid-range, you're not going to get any sound out of it. Next, you have your tweeter attenuation located here. It comes as +2 dB, 0, or -2. This is how loud that tweeter is going to be. I would strongly suggest 0 or -2. And on this side, we have axis. On axis, off axis. Now what that is referring to is the position of those tweeters. So if the tweeters are up in the dash like this, that would be considered on axis. If they're over here in the door panels, that would be considered off axis. So for us, because we're putting them in the door panels, we are going to be off axis and we're going to run it at -2 because these are super loud tweeters and they don't need to be killing it. Alright, so he's made some great progress on his idea. Let's zoom in and take a look. So as you can see, this is the bracket that he made. He retained that factory screw and then added 2 short other screws here. You can see here where it tongues into this piece of foam. So we can pick up the whole door panel the way this is mounted. This is in there nice and secure. Good job, buddy.
I went and put some labels because we're gonna solder new wires. We're gonna cover everything with Tesa tape, and every time we're gonna unplug it, you know, dealer is gonna go for service. At least we know which one is which one.
So Fernando just said those magic words, which are, hey man, this door panel's done. So all the wires are zip tied into the bracket as well, so they won't get pulled out of the crossover. The crossover, as we said, is firmly mounted. Here is our 6-pin connector. That way this will be able to come off with the door easy, just like all these other connectors that are in there. Now all we need to do is get this wired up in the car and we'll be all set. So to get the tweeter out of the mount, there's one Phillips screw on the back. Then the panel just snaps off, and then there's some little snaps here that hold the factory tweeter in place. and it pops right out. Now this is a pretty beefy size factory tweeter, which is nice because the T2 tweeter is also a very beefy tweeter, and believe it or not, it fits right in place. It actually snaps in, so there's really no mount. Now there is a big open air chamber behind this, so we're gonna go ahead and put some foam in here just to kill any sound that might get around it. Now this is just regular sheet foam that we have. Don't ask me where we got it, I have no idea. Now you can use any type of foam you want. Basically all this is doing is this is just going to kill any back waves that are coming off the tweeter or anything that's recirculating around the back side of it. It's going to focus all that energy towards the front, and then it's just going to fill up all this space inside of here. And then of course we're going to tape up all our wiring so that it looks more factory. And for that we're using the exterior Tessa tape, and then we can go ahead and snap it back together. The last thing we're going to go ahead and do is add our bullet connectors to it so that the tweeter will be serviceable. And then the last thing we'll do is go ahead and put a little piece of shrink wrap on here. Make sure if you are using the bullet connectors, you put the shrink wrap all the way at the back of the connector so that the female version can slide over it. Now your tweeter's all set. Repeat it on the other side. So now he's got our plug installed in the car, so let's take a look at the finished product. Here is our harness that's going to plug into our door panel. It's zip tied up into the master harness. We have our tweeter wire over here that will plug in right here when we go to plug that in. Our mid-range is all in with the factory bracket. The foam is all on. So the idea now is just like these here that plug in, we will just plug in ours. And then if they ever need to service this, it'll just unplug as well. Because remember, at the end of the day, these are cars. They fall apart, they break, they get old. We hope that what we did is going to last a very, very long time. Hopefully longer than some of the parts of the car. Like, let's say the window regulator. It is a Chevy. I own one, but hey, things happen. It needs to be able to come apart, and not when someone goes to pull that door off, the crossover just falls on the floor, or it's tucked inside on the other side of the vapor barrier here, and then it's just going to get all wet and rust and corrode and get all nasty. Ooh. Things to think about when you're deciding where you want to put that crossover. Ideally, the first spot would be in the car somewhere, but if you do have to go in the door like we did here, then figure out somewhere to put it where it's going to stay nice and dry and also fully serviceable. You ready to put the door back on?
I'm ready to put it now.
And then you're going to start on the passenger side. Ooh. It's a nice thing about doing door panels, especially one that's this involved. And we didn't even do roadkill. I know, right? That's actually going to be phase 2. See, the nice thing is like with this fast ring, it's around the bracket, so this will all come off, and he'll do roadkill at a later date. Yeah.
All right, guys, this door is done. Let's move into another thing.